everybody. Welcome to the Faith and Fandom podcast on the Love Thy Nerd podcast network. So grateful you can join here with us. And if you're watching this or listening to it, there's different options for you. There's a dedicated YouTube channel to this podcast over at youtube.com/@whatever Faith and Fandom LTN. Or you can find this on the Love Thy Nerd podcast network. And you can also find us on the Glue network, GLU, on Roku TV. So across the board, there are different options to join us, but we are grateful you're joining us here today for this episode. And I'm Hector Mirai of Faith and Fandom, the book series. And today I'm joined by Timmy Martens.
That's me.
That's you. Who are you, Timmy?
Yeah. Oh, first, let me just apologize. My cat decided just to go absolutely feral while you started talking. So if you see her darting around in the background, that's Charlie, Charleston, and named after the South Carolina city. My dog, Charlotte, is named after the North Carolina city. It's not here. But anyways, I'm Timmy. Timmy Martens. I am a full-time missionary with Camp Grace. I work with a whole bunch of teenagers and college-age students. I'm running programs, activities, events, and things. Basically, any event that comes at Camp Grace, I'm involved in some way, form, or fashion. And but I have been in Hector's life for quite some time, since I was like 10 years old.
7.
And yeah, Stephen younger. That's right. I moved around when I was 10 years old. And so he's known me since I was a little chubby kid. And now I get to do very similar to what his job was.
You have my same job, you just do it better.
I don't know about that.
The world has evolved and things have changed.
Yes, I know. I do kind of like a mixture of yours and Brent's job.
Yeah.
And regardless, though, I love keeping up with Hector. He's kind of my source for anything nerd. And if I need a second opinion, he's almost always the second opinion. And I've always enjoyed reading his books, and to a point where I also edit them. If you find any errors in the book, it's because I suck as an editor, but I try my best. And
you've been just Timmy has been part of the editorial, if not the majority of the editorial, since 2015.
And I will say, Hector's gotten significantly, like book 3. I remember just big blocks of text, very difficult to edit. But I mean, you read through your work now. You read through it and like out loud for podcasting purposes. So
it helps. It helps.
It does. It does. What book are we on?
10 for the series, and then also going to do like another bite-sized one and another junior one. So like
awesome.
The junior ones are such a hassle because I have to fight my own copyrights because they're gonna fight me on saying, right, "Oh, you're stealing from a book called Faith and Fandom," and I'm like it's super annoying. Yeah, we're on that, but yeah, Timmy has been editing books in his pseudo spare time for me since 2015 because you are not only is and you gotta, how old are you now?
I just turned 30. Turned 30.
You just turned 30. So just keep that in mind. He's been editing books for 9 years for me.
Yeah.
So that's the majority of your 20s. Just because you've always been a passionate writer and, with that. And so it's kind of going to be part of our focus of where we're at because it's November, folks.
It is November.
November is filled with stupid things, like elections. And like in Movember and
we don't have to talk about the other ones.
We don't have to talk about the other ones because they're unseemly. And
that's right.
They're unseemly. But one of the things that happens every November across the board is, I'm not even going to say it because I'm going to say it wrong. But
it's NANOWRIMO. And it stands for National Novel Writing Month. And it's funny because literally today, I've been really enjoying Nano this year. And I was just talking to Hector. I'm just like, bro, one of these days, you need to have me on and we can talk about it. He's like, what about today? I'm like, all right, let's do it. And it is kind of a tradition that I have now, just to participate in National Novel Writing Month. It's blocked off in my mind. There's no way I'm not going to do it. Right. It's become a priority. And it is funny. I had a guy over as I was writing. He's one of our part-time workers, and he came into my house, and I told him just like, oh yeah, I'm doing this thing all November. It's called NaNoWRIMO. And he just kind of looked at me. He's like, is that what I think it is? I'm like, no, it's not. It's very simple. It's very simple. You just write 50,000 words in the month of November. Now that's the simple part. And for those who are just beginning into writing, it can be a little difficult because that's 1667 words a day. And it definitely takes some getting used to, because one of my favorite parts and kind of where I want the conversation to go is just in the writing process, what are some of the what are the harder parts about it? And when you read people like Robert Jordan or Brandon Sanderson or even like Rick Riordan, they put out these books and books and books. Like Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series is 4 million words long, which is the Bible is 700. I know, right? The Bible is 750,000 words for reference. So it's like reading the Bible over 4 million divided by 750,000, right? It's just so many words that he wrote in that series. Brandon Sanderson is probably going to catch up to him eventually. Brandon Sanderson actually got to co-write, or not co-write. He actually took over for the finishing of the Wheel of Time when Robert Jordan passed. And Robert Jordan just handed him all of these notes. And so it's like, how do these guys do it? How on earth do they create these fantastical universes that are millions of words big? And I mean, you're used to big universes because you're a comic guy, and some of the biggest universes on the planet revolve around comics. And I don't know the process for writing a comic. You do. You've done it. And with all the artwork and all the things, but it is different in a novel because you lack that visual component, right? And I think Nano introduced this concept to me that allowed me to be able just to write. Actually, this Nano, I think I'm going to write past 1 million words. It tracks how many words you've written through Nano, and I'm at, I can actually tell you, I am at, it's pulled up right here. If I go to my stats, I'm at 927,000 words. And I think part of my goal is that I am going to get to 1 million this Nano season. So it doesn't include what I've written this
Dude,
season.
I if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong, and it might be book 8 or 9, maybe 8. I think 8 was my biggest, and I think that was like 56,000.
It was pretty big. It was over a Nano. Like it was over 50,000 words. I know, and that's pretty beefy too. It was a big book.
It is. It's the biggest. But like, I I don't know how to fathom just churning that out. Like, and to do it on a time scale, because for me, that's one of the things, like, I am never, like, especially with where the season I'm at in my life right now, is like, I don't have it in me to be able to write when I want to write just because of life. Um, but to be able to say you're going to churn out this much content for, everything, that seems kind of just crazy, go nuts.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, there's a couple helps, and there's a couple. Nano kind of helps you train your brain, which is one I think the most helpful things. It's been helpful for me. Basically, the goal of Nano is just to get your idea down on paper at whatever cost. They even go as far to say, like, turn off your screen if you need to. Don't correct your mistakes. I take the thing. I turn off spell check, so that way I don't see the little red squiggles, because every red squiggle makes you want to go back and fix it. And I try not to correct spellings. I just keep going as fast as I can. Because Nano, it's kind of their goal and their mission is just get the 50,000 words on paper, because then you can go back and edit those words. And that's kind of where I'm at. So when I first started doing Nano, I would struggle to get that 1,667 words a day. I would usually have to catch up on the weekends. I would get behind because of whatever. But like Hector, I'll say this: like I've been enjoying this Nano so much. It's day 5, and I just got to the halfway mark. I've averaged 5,000 words a day, leading up
Ew.
to this. And part of it is just because experience. Just when you pull off the distractions, I don't even listen to music anymore. All I can hear is just the sounding of the clacking of my keyboard. I've gotten to the point where I can get close to, not consistently, but I can get close to 2,000 words every 45-minute writing session. And I'm not going to say they're good. I'm not going to say that the words are good. They're in paragraphs, and sometimes the dialogue is easier for me to write. I know some people are better at like writing descriptions or other things, of describing something rather than conversation. But it also helps that I have this one writer friend named Melissa. She's in Boston. And she's the one who introduced me to Nano. She has one more year than me. I believe she started in either 08 or 09, something like that. So she's been doing it for a long time. And there's that friendly competition that we always have every year. Now, she's a new mother, so she's not going as fast as she has in the past, but we like to challenge each other. She's in Boston. We have another friend that's in Canada. And so we have our own little, Discord that we have the Sprinto bot on Discord, and it shows how many words you write in a sprint and different things. So it's very fun because I have a lot of these books that I could publish if I wanted to, or I could start the publishing process on them. I find that most of the works that I write are more for me and not for others. The one that I'm currently working on now, I'd like to try publishing because I like it that much.
So pause just to
No, go ahead. Yeah.
For the clarification for people. You for how many years now?
Since 2009, I believe.
Okay,
I can
so
confirm that here in a second.
15 years, you have written a novel a year at 50,000 words,
Mm-hmm.
and you've never published any of them.
I have never officially published any of them. No, they're all sitting on a computer. And I will say, as I'm looking through this, yep. So I take it back. It was 2010 when I started. I wrote 50K for that one. I wrote 100K on the next one. I wrote 100K on the next one, 73K on the next one, 66K. It's really cool because Nano has a really good tracking on all of it. My biggest one ever that I did in 1 month was 121,000 words because I was in the Philippines. And I didn't speak the language, so I kind of just sat around and wrote all day. And I didn't have my PlayStation with me either, so that kind of helps. So yeah, it's been since 2010. So this is the 15th year. And that number that I told you is actually wrong for words. I didn't realize with all the with my most recent work that I put in, I'm actually less than 1,000 words away from 1,000,000. I'm probably gonna, after I finish recording this, I'm going to write my 1,000th word. I don't know what it's gonna be, but it's exciting.
So, do you, and this is one of the things, and I get we're all different in how we create in our own processes and things. For me, I need a certain level of closure that, like, for instance, if I go to a con, if I do an event, I don't feel like I'm done with the event until I post the photos of the event.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I don't want to leave it lingering because I need to move on to the next thing. Like it's the full birthing of it. And for me, like when I work on a project, I want to work on a project until I can actually give birth to it, and then I'm done with it forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
What does it do? Like, do you feel like there's an anticlimactic portion where these things are just kind of lingering in the background? Are you fine with leaving them there forever? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because I would lose my mind.
So I think part of it is the intention behind the writing. Like I've said it in passing that a lot of these projects were more for me, not necessarily for someone else. Definitely there are people that come into my life that are like muses, and so characters are based off of people and other things, and that will help encourage me to write. But for the most part, a lot of these things are pretty deep reflections of different things that I'm going through. The one that I'm currently writing right now is just really reflecting some of the questions I have in my faith journey about I don't want you to think that like, oh, Timmy's questioning God or anything like that.
This isn't board time.
No, but a lot of the deeper questions of grappling of kind of like an illustration of, we had these conversations where, in Baldur's Gate, every single one of your characters, I don't want to go into spoilers, but is grappling with a greater power, right? And I don't want to give
I
any
think
spoilers.
you're fair, dude. I mean, like Baldur's Gate's over a year at this
Oh,
point.
that's fair. You're right. And it's been early access for even longer than that. I'll just say this. If you haven't gotten to the point, I just know that even if you've played a little bit, you'll start to realize that every single character has been, there is some sort of powerful person or deity or something that was that used or abused their power for that person. Um, and I kind of want to explore what that looks like in someone eh, that it's not necessarily the deity or the power that is using or abusing them, but in essence that they're doing it to themselves.
Mm.
And in service to that thing. So like Hector, you know me, especially you know me from pre 2019. Um, Major try hard, wanted to do everything, said yes to everything. And as I've grown up a little bit out of that. And I still, but I see it in reflection of some of the people that I work with, especially some of these young people that I work with. And um, so this project, in a way, is also something deeply personal. I would say my most personal project, the one that I'm closest to finishing. Oh, it is finished. The first draft is finished. I could publish it if I wanted to. If I wanted to, again, go through the process. But one of the characters is basically my anxiety personified as a character, and I have a character that represents myself and the um working through what it would be like, and instead of always being, let me find a way better to say this, instead of always being so aggressive towards myself, right, learning to embrace the parts of myself that make me who I am. And I have like 250,000 words of that one written. And one of these days that I almost continued writing that one. That one has been the project I've been writing for Nano for the past like 4 years. So this is the year that I'm taking a break from that one. But yeah, so I don't really have this sense of incompletion with them because I don't know. They're stories that I haven't completed my own journey in a lot of these things. And so just one of the ways, as a form of catharsis and as a way of processing these things, I do one of my favorite hobbies, and it's just to write them out. And I could pull up some I don't want to call them cringy, but some scenes where I was definitely going through it. And you can definitely tell on the paper because it's 3 pages of just like, whoa, okay. And I'll sometimes go back to those scenes and some part of me wants to delete them. Part of me wants to rewrite it and edit it out. But it did represent a part of my life that I don't know, is very important to me. And so I do think that there are some projects that if I do publish, there's the caveat of it being like, this is a very personal project. Um, I could write for mass media if I wanted to. I would love, if I wasn't in ministry, that would be probably the job that I would try to go for. But right now, I'm writing what is personal to me, and I am really enjoying it. Like the one that I'm writing right now, like the second we get off this call, I'm gonna write a little bit more of it because I'm at a really good part.
Yeah, we pushed this podcast back till like late at night because he still wanted to keep writing without stopping. So,
That's right.
and I had to travel too, but um, like I get the challenging aspect of it, and I get that, just giving yourself those goals. Because like one of the things I do every year is I try and do like Inktober in some capacity,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the first year I actually did all 31 days. Like, so I suck at getting 31 sketches done, and you're dropping whole works of literature. Um, on your creative process, like how do you world build? Because I'll say this, I'm good at analyzing things, and I'm good at, drawing comparisons. I'm good at like retelling things. I don't know that I'm great at creating things, because when I look at the things I've done, if it's poetry, it's just reflecting what's in me. If it's, faith and fandom stuff, it's just comparing two different things I'm already exposed to. The comic book is literally um just my teenage years, and even um the children's book, like the stuff that I've done that even could technically be fiction, is really just Bible exegesis with some nerd stuff.
Mhm.
So, like, I don't know how to create worlds. And like I'm writing a fiction piece right now. Um, when it's on the like the third level of activity of um your local, so you'll know where this is. You know, the graveyard right between like the mall and Sonic and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm writing a book called The Graveyard at the Center of Town.
Okay.
And it's going to be a 10-story anthology that all connects to that graveyard.
Okay. That's fun. I like the name because I'm working on the city at the edge of the world. So
Yeah.
um I think we're in similar places. I like that.
But like, even with that, like I've got a listing of like the different anthology stories and they're all fiction, like, but some of them are still anchored heavily in
Mhm.
I saw this one time happen, so I'm gonna build a story off of this. Um uh I had one that straight came to me in a dream. Like
Okay.
on that, like literally I woke up and like that's like out of nowhere. Uh but like so tell me, what does it do? Where do you pull, how much is real life personified? How much of it is just straight fiction? What's your world building process like?
It depends on the project. This project was decided 2 days before Nano. I believe I came up with it on the 29th of October. Um, and I had a couple other plans going on. The fallback was like I can always go back to the big one that I'm working on. I'm working on the sequel to that big one. Um, and so this idea really just kind of came out of nowhere. It honestly, if you were to ask me where did the exact inspiration, it kind of cascaded. It's kind of like a little snowball. Like where did the snowball start? It started with a Filipino Canadian artist named Miko putting out an album, and a friend and I were listening to it, and um, he looked him up, and I'm just like, I saw a picture of him. I'm like, he kind of looks Filipino, and I'm also Filipino, so he was just like, yeah, he's Filipino Canadian, and you're like, oh, is there like a song that triggered you? Like, is there like some deep meaning to the song or to the album? Or no, it's literally just the fact that he was Filipino, and I had a Filipino character somewhere in the back of my head. And because I was enjoying the album so much, this character sprouted legs and started walking, and I had to pick up my pen and paper and just started following to see where he went. Um, I kind of wanted to do something from like that Baldur's Gate kind of thing. I was originally going to write some sort of like expanded universe, like Star Wars thing, but part of me was just like, "Ooh, does that make it fan fiction then?" I don't know. And uh, I was also potentially going to do something with like group write something with a friend on like IO psychology and stuff. But at the end of the day, I really just wanted to do something that kind of reflected my own spiritual journey. I will say this though, Hector, at this point, it's kind of deviated quite a bit into its own thing. So I can't explain it. Oftentimes these books or these characters, oftentimes it starts with characters will just run in a direction, and I can't really stop it, and I just write what comes next. And I guess I can visualize it almost in my brain. I have this one mapped out for the most part. I am trying to do something special with it, and I don't know if I'm going to be successful. There's a twist, a couple twists actually, and I'm playing around with that twist right now, trying to make it effective so that way when it hits you in the middle of the book, it's effective. And I've done twists before as a DM or a GM in like Dungeons and Dragons or as RPG stuff, but I've never done twists where I was intentionally trying to fool my audience. So it's kind of fun. Um, if I do get this published, I'm sorry for spoiling the fact that there is a twist coming up in the book. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but sorry, it's coming up. Um, Yeah, but I don't know how to explain it. Like these worlds and these universes, I think it's a hobby of mine. I don't like being bored, and so if I don't have anything to do, I usually just think of aspects of universes that I've created before. One of my biggest novel ideas that if I ever have children, I'm gonna want to write these one down because they're more, I don't want to say childish, but more for that age group, or they could be for that age group. But I have like a 50,000 word just lore book of different cities and creatures and characters that span like
Okay, C.S.
7,000,
Lewis.
8,000 years. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, sorry, Tolkien. That would be a Tolkien thing.
Yeah. I'm trying my best to be like Tolkien. I have my own. I can't even say that. It's what the similar.
Similarian or
That's
whatever.
it. Yeah.
Which,
Um.
by the way, have you heard of Mythmakers?
No. Maybe.
Okay. Was released a little bit earlier this year. It is a hardback graphic novel that is a fantasy infused telling of the whole relationship between Tolkien and Lewis through their own avatars. So you've got a lion in a tweed sports coat with a pipe,
Okay.
and a wizard with glasses and like an Oxford sweater, walking through the life of Tolkien and Lewis, their respective backstories, their friendship, the de-evolution of their friendship, and ultimately their deaths.
Uh huh.
Um, but it's drawn and illustrated in a breathtaking way.
Hmm.
And if you're a fan of, but there's a whole section just on world building and types of literature
Okay.
between myth, allegory. There's like a thing where it's like you get to a certain point in the book. It's like, hey, you could skip to this page to learn what separates a myth versus an allegory.
Uh-huh.
And but it made me cry. But literally, it's so good. I read it in one sitting. Like
Okay.
I opened the Amazon package, opened it just to see the artwork, and then read the whole book.
Okay. I might need to go sit at your house for a little bit and read it then.
Yeah.
Um, Now, I would definitely say I strive to have universes as big and beautiful as Tolkien. Um, and the fact that you can write so many different stories surrounded in that universe already. Like I had a friend asking, I'm like, okay, so the one you're working on right now, is it just gonna be one book? And I'm like, yes. Um, but it could spin off into some really fluffy, slice of life one shots, and then there is a sequel that it could go into. And again, it's all spoilers if I talk about it, but um, it's just I don't know. I wish I could give more explanation, but I part of it I just think is how my brain works. Um, and there are times I do have friends that I will have to talk through the ideas, and I have a couple who are particularly good sounding boards because they give good ideas back. Um, and right now, I was asking some friends about like right now the question I've been there's kind of like a pantheon in this one that kind of is similar but not an exact representation of like the Greek myth. Okay. And so I'm trying to be a little bit more original with it and not just make, oh, here's your Zeus, here's your Poseidon, here's your Hades. And so I'm like, if you had to, let's start with gender bending them, right? Like, so if Zeus was a woman, like how would you like what would we not do? What would we do? And things like that. So that's kind of been the questions I've been asking my friends. But when it comes to like the actual like the flow of the story and stuff, that's almost always, I guess, decided by not even me. It's decided by the story itself. Again, I just pick up a pen and paper and follow behind these characters. Some people like to start with a theme. They like to start with a point that they're trying to make. Um, my friend in Boston, that's more of her style. She's like, okay, I want to make a point about this. I err, unfortunately, on the other side. Sometimes I have to be like, okay, what's the point that I'm trying to make now? I start with characters that usually represent different things. And then they just kind of interact with each other. And then if it makes a point, we kind of, it's kind of up to you, I guess, as the reader, about what I'm trying to tell you. Uh, I've tried doing like explicit, this is what I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to make this point, and I don't get very far in them. So,
Um, do you can see this being something you continue doing indefinitely?
like Nano, like the 50,000 words, absolutely. It's like a point of pride at this point. There have been times in my life when I really shouldn't be able to do it because November is a very busy month. This year has been great. Nano started on a weekend. I had a great start. Um, but there are times in my life, I feel like I've proven to myself that I can get it done regardless of what's going on. It's also like the one month of the year. I wish I could say that I replicated this other months during the year. I really don't. This is the month that I get 90% of my writing done, I feel like, in the year. I also write more than 50,000 words now in the month of November. I usually challenge myself to go beyond that, because I think I've been able to do it within 10 days before. So if I can do it in 10 days, then I know I can do it. If I put my mind to it, I can do it. Um, so yeah, it's not as it's much less about the am I capable and more of the and since I know that I'm capable, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I feel like you've done Inktober, and so the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more confident you get at it, and the more fun angles you get at it, and you get comfortable with your style. And I wish I wrote more literary sometimes. And when I go back and edit, sometimes I'll try to adjust my form, and um, but I have to also just accept that I am the artist that I am, and um, that I know that there are some people that enjoy reading it. I've shared it with I've shared some of my work with friends, and they've all enjoyed it, and that is good enough. I don't have to be Robert Jordan. I don't have to be Tolkien. I don't have to be Brandon Sanderson. I can just be Timothy Martens. And one of these days, if I ever try to make that leap like you did and get published, I'm sure I'll find someone who also enjoys reading Timothy Martens. So
That's the thing for sure. You always have an audience out there. Um, it's just finding enough time to be able to connect with your audience. Um, and just as we mentioned it too, like you mentioned me recording my stuff in podcast form, you've got, probably like 20 seasons of podcast material. If
it
you
would be
don't,
fun. Yeah, I should do it. I
if
should
you
do
don't
it.
ever publish it in print form, you could go through and your different nano stories and write them or read them out as podcasts serialized. Like that could be
It's
pretty epic too.
it's been a thought. I'll tell you, it's been a thought. Um,
So, so for the uninitiated writer, or maybe someone who's dabbled or just hasn't been that confident in it, what benefits are there for NaNoWRIMO?
I mean, I just think that sometimes we can get so stuck in writing perfectly the first time that we don't understand the power of a first draft. Completing something does something to you. It pushes you to continue and to succeed. And you might be like, well, you're the worst person to say that because you've never gone beyond a first draft or a second draft, at least. But for me, being able to hold a first draft in my hand or having that completed document has been enough, right? And I would have never gotten to that point truly unless NaNoWRIMO, the community that's involved, really pushed, um, really pushed me to do that. Now, Nano is kind of going through a really big restructure. There used to be a lot more with like forums and professionals that would come in and help you and stuff, and they're restructuring a lot of that. And so I'm excited to see where the company is taking it. They have a new board and everything. They were very transparent. There was some controversy that came up a couple of years ago about someone on one of their forums. They're very public about it, very open, and saying what steps that they're taking to be better, which I think is really cool as an organization. And if not for that organization, I definitely would be kind of still balking at, just getting a couple thousand words done and then leaving an unfinished project and then jumping to another one. It helps me get a big bulk of it done. and then with a really cool community to at your back. So I've met some cool people that have helped me with different things. I remember at one point um, I've never gone bow hunting for like a deer before. And I'm like, how do you drag a deer through the woods? Like, what do you do? And that must be really, really heavy and things like that. And this really cool guy from up north walked me through how to um like what you do when you shoot a deer in the middle of the woods and what you would do as in medieval times. Like if you don't have an ATV, what would you do? Um and he was so thorough, and it was just this random dude, so like it also connects you to resources. I understand that now we have AI, and I will also say AI is helpful when asking questions. You can ask it like, how do I poison someone without the FBI wondering why you're asking that kind of question. But it's really cool because in Nano they also have like a list of professionals. I usually list myself as like a summer camp professional, that if you have any questions about what it means to be like a camp counselor or someone who is in charge of a summer camp, you can ask me questions. I usually don't get a lot of people asking questions, but there's also people that ask like, hey, what is it like to be a Christian in this regard? And so I'm like, oh yeah, let me, give my 2 cents kind of thing. So there's some cool communities. I think they're restructuring a lot of those communities right now. So if you were to start Nano tomorrow, you'd be like, where are these forums that he was talking about? Again, they're fixing it right now, and reestablishing themselves.
This is going to air towards the end of the week, maybe Thursday or whatever. So that would put it like 7 days into NaNoWRIMO.
Yeah.
Would you recommend people wait until next year?
I
Or
mean, yeah, I say like sky's the limit. I got to 25K in 5 days. So, but if you can get to the point where you're writing a casual writer at a who knows their typing skills and isn't so worried about whether it's perfect or not, you're just writing down your thoughts. You can spit out 1,000 words per hour. You really can. And so if you can dedicate 50 hours in a month, which is not that bad, um, then you can do something that you feel accomplished. It's a good accomplishment. So I would say go for it. Of course. And the cool thing is that you don't have to necessarily finish. Part of it is you just get the words down on paper. If you're just a couple thousand words short of your goal at the end of November, guess what? You can just keep going into the next month. Now, there are some cool goodies that you can win. If you do finish, there's discounts on different writing softwares and different sweepstakes that you get. Um, they also there at one point was an entire forum about how to cheat effectively your word count, and all moderated by their own people. So it's just like, yeah, you wrote a paper for school, add it to your word count. Technically it's not allowed, but it is. They just, again, they're just like, we want you to succeed. It's a very good community. And every single year when I say I won Nano, everyone's just like, oh, who are you up against? I'm like, myself. It was just me. I'm amongst many people that are doing it. And um, I love it. It's something that I look forward to every single November, because it's also like it's trained in my brain. It's like, this is the month that I'm going to get some writing done.
this is why
So
I don't release books in like January. Um,
right.
because I can guarantee that if I'm trying to release something in January, Timmy ain't gonna edit during November, and I'm just strapped. So
Yeah. I think I had to do one once, and
you did, and I was like,
it was,
never. I'm not. I learned my
yeah.
lesson.
I think I did it in like 2 days or 3 days, which
Yeah.
was probably not the best. Um, but yeah, I'm looking forward to, honestly, Hector, to your next book, because I feel like there's been some good sources of media that need to get out there, and if you don't write it, someone has to. So
Currently, as it sits, 'cause I just had that document up. Um, Currently, as it sits, we have a WWE chapter, which I know it's not your jam.
okay.
Um, but I've made it 10 books before I covered wrestling, so that's pretty fun. Um, but then again, it's been more involved with Carmen. So we've got a WWE chapter. Um, and which, by the way, the guy who produces this podcast, he's a wrestling person, and he told me my wrestling chapter had the best title of anything ever, because there's a wrestler named Jay Uso whose whole shtick right now is just the word yeet.
Okay.
He got drunk at a conference. He got drunk after winning a tag team championship, and while he was drunk, he didn't know he had to do an interview.
Oh no.
And so he showed up to the interview and in a 2 minute interview said the word yeet 16 times. And he would get real serious and go, yeet. And that became his catchphrase. And like people started chanting it, shouting it. He sold more merchandise with the word yeet on it in the month of October than all merchandise for the top two earners in the whole company.
Holy cow.
So like the people that make millions of dollars more than him, he
Uh-huh.
sold more merch than them, doubled. It was so big that when he did a big pay-per-view thing in Paris, it literally shook the cameras off the walls
Wow.
from the people because you do like that when you yell yeet
Uh-huh.
and has big foam hands, yeet hands, the whole deal.
Okay, okay. I okay, okay. I the foam hands that helped me. I think I've seen some of this. Okay.
So the chapter was called "The Yeet Shall Inherit the Earth," and I published that, I don't know, like 5, 6 months ago. Um, Probably not that long, but either way, it's been a minute. And he gave me praise for that. This week, a major sports outlet writing a story on the fact that he outsold everybody in the company, titled it "The Yeet Shall Inherit the Earth." And I
Fight
just,
them.
I sent him a message. I was just like, "You were there. You know I did this." He's like, "I'll be your witness." But we have a Jey Uso chapter. We have Baldur's Gate 3, the Karlach chapter, which by the
Mm-hmm.
way, you can pre-order the Baldur's Gate Funkos at GameStop to be in December.
Nice, nice.
I,
See,
I
I feel like I need to write a Shadowheart chapter if you're writing a Karlach chapter.
You
So,
do. And your whole thing about the manipulation would be a big deal
uh-huh.
too.
Yeah.
So there's a Karlach chapter. There is um a One Piece chapter, a Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom chapter, a
Good, good.
Delicious in Dungeon chapter, and
Good.
then there'll be an Avatar: The Last Airbender chapter, and um whatever else I did at Geek Church recently.
Okay.
There's there was one that was Avatar. Oh, and then just the God is a fan of you thing is going to get its own thing. But that's where I'm at. So, but there's a lot of good content. It's just I haven't been moved by a lot of good content in a minute.
Mm,
So,
that's fair. Yeah.
so
I feel like video game wise, I man, I just haven't been super impressed lately. I'm trying to remember the last time I was really impressed by a game and I can't. So,
Sea of Stars was the last big impression for me.
that's right.
Um,
You enjoyed
and
that game.
Baldur's Gate was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I'm okay with Star Wars Outlaws. It's not bad, but it's also just Red Dead Space. Um, and do you remember the game Gree? Did you ever play that?
What
Gris,
was that?
Gree, GRIS.
Yeah, I never played it though. I do know what you're talking about.
Okay, that studio dropped a new game,
What's it called?
Neva, and it's similar to Gree, but you have a sword.
Okay.
Gree has no attacks. Neva, you have a sword, and it starts off with loss of like your animal spirit creature, whatever. That's a giant wolf deer thing.
Hmm.
And your Gree was a whole breakdown in terms of learning to go through the broken parts of your psyche and your spirit. That was
Okay.
the vibe of Gree because all the color is sucked out of your life and you're going through different parts of your brokenness to bring the color back. That's Gree.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I've seen some streamers play this. Yeah.
Neva, and I haven't finished the game enough to be able to tell exactly what it is, but it's either cancer or death
Okay.
because it's fighting through decay.
Interesting. Okay.
So there's these black decaying stuff that's just creeping on everything and you're trying to fight it off. Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are the ones that I'm hopeful for. But then again, I'm not trying to shoehorn anything. We'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the game I'm looking forward to the most is probably like Slay the Spire 2. I've been playing Slay the Spire all over again. Maybe I need to write a Slay the Spire chapter. It's a good old deck building roguelike that I always return to. I've been playing it for years. I'm sure any staff member that if you catch me not editing photos, if there's one game I'm playing at my desk during the summertime, if I'm taking like a little bit of time, you do it in runs because it's a deck builder. That they've probably seen me playing a run or two of Slay the Spire. So like Rosa has potentially seen me playing Slay the Spire at my desk before.
So before we go, um, and thank you for lavishing us with all the knowledge of NaNoWRIMO because literally outside of you, I've never heard of it existing.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad more people need to hear about it.
Um, loaded question
Okay.
because you've edited 98% of the stuff I've written. What's the best thing I've written and what's the worst thing I've written?
Oh no. Oh man. Okay. Like I don't know if this is a cop out, but one of the worst things, the worst thing you've written are the things that I ask you ahead of time, like, is this gonna spoil this for me? And you're like, no, not really. And then I do it, and then I'm like, I don't want to ingest this media anymore because I feel like I know everything about it.
Sorry.
I uh, so anything like that, but I mean, it is payback because I spoiled the Hunger
The
Games for
Hunger
you.
Games for you. So when Timmy was like a 12-year-old, or whatever he was, like the Hunger Games was a new book. And he came over to my house and complained about the berry
The
ending.
berries, yes.
He said, this is some young adult book. You're never going to read this. And spoiled the ending for me. And then it became like a worldwide phenomenon. And I went into every version of this, like, that dirty rascal. This stuff.
Never gonna live that down. I'm
No.
trying to remember. I'm gonna say this. There are sometimes when I edit something that makes me want to look into and dig deeper into things. But there have been a couple times. I think I put down The Walking Dead because of you. Like I never picked it back up. Because I read a chapter. I'm just like, well, okay. And I
But
go in I go into it knowing I've never seen Carl die. All right. Just saying that. I've never even gotten to that part. Carl is still alive and kicking at the point that I'm at. So I'll say that's like the least. Now the best. I love your nerd stuff. I do remember reading and it being just an immense pleasure reading the oh, now I can't remember the number. Is it 7 things that you learned? However many things that you learned about sucking at youth ministry or ministry.
oh yeah,
Um
the 10
or
things.
is it 10 things? 10 things. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was I also just have fond memories of taking a picture
The dodgeball.
of the dodgeball in your face.
Heavenly smushing a dodgeball in my face and you taking photos.
Yes, amazing, amazing. I do like that one. Because it's such an easy read. You know, you start, yeah, first page to the end.
What
And just
what one of my former youth pastors read it and he said, I read the whole thing in one toilet sitting. And I'm like, thanks, buddy.
I don't know if that says something about the book or his toilet settings, or both. But I would say I think my favorite thing that I've ever read from you. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's not even technically Faith and Fandom. It is that comic you had me read, the one with the different people that are illustrated within it, and where you got some of the inspiration from. And I think you actually have pictures of me cheesing while reading it because
Oh,
it's
I
so
do.
creative.
It was in my
Yeah.
promo. Yeah, Flockward.
Yes. I absolutely loved the first issue of Flockward. And if any other issues get published, please, I need to read them. And I know you have to wait for art and everything, but I do. I did love that. And then of the books, I need to go to my shelf and look at the covers to help me remember which one. I think the red cover. You did a random red cover. It wasn't random.
It was at that point because everything prior to that had been black
Right.
or white. Yeah.
Uh-huh. That one I think I liked in particular as well. Man, now I need to go like pull it out and remember why. Anything that you cover any of the Batman family apart from Batman, I also enjoy because I'm
Yeah.
a big I love Timothy Drake and I also have a growing appreciation for Dick Grayson. Um, Damian Wayne still sucks.
By the
And
way, and I'm going to mention this,
does he suck or has he
he's
gotten
a little
better?
better, but there's a weird thing, and I'm going to mention this on my comics podcast later in this week too. They're starting to melanate him.
Interest Damien?
Yeah.
Hmm.
They're starting.
I mean, Talia, I guess, is
Right. But the entire
yeah,
time, my homeboy has existed since like 2009,
right. Kid's
and
white.
he has been pasty. But
Yeah.
in almost every modern depiction I'm seeing now, they're giving him a little more of Talia's pigment,
Hmm.
which, I feel like they're just trying like, why are all just a bunch of white boys in domino masks?
Yeah.
So,
One of these days, I just need to ask you questions, and you need to answer them for your podcast listeners. But do you think there will ever come a time when Bruce Wayne will be replaced by someone else?
so that has happened twice already. And one of the biggest voices in comic books in the world got fired for trying it again. Once upon a time, around 2009, Batman air quotes died.
Right,
And
right. This was an amazing comic arc. I remember reading. It's just Battle for the Cowl and everything,
yeah,
right? I
yeah,
loved it.
yeah. And
Um,
Dick Grayson became Batman, and I honestly really loved Dick Grayson as Batman.
mhm.
Then recently there was Future State, pardon me, where not or one of Lucius Fox's kids became Batman. And now they're just pretending that didn't happen. But
Well,
the deal was they were going to do this story called 5G, which they were going to do a future forward skit where uh Tim or Dick Grayson was going to be killed, and that
mhm.
was going to kick off the future state thing happening. Dick Grayson was going to be killed. The big three were going to go, and new people were going to take up the mantles. And that's where Lucius Fox's kid was going to be Batman. And they just messed it up. But literally, a dude named Dan Didio, who's one of the biggest comic book creators in the world, lost his job for trying to pitch that story because
Oh
he
man.
got them to move forward with it. Then people were like, abandon ship, quickly,
Yeah.
emergency brake. And yeah, it was a
I don't
bummer.
know. It just like I love the concept. I mean, discipleship, A. And then just of little Jonathan Kent and little Damian Wayne and all the super kids, right? Eventually taking their parents' place. But I think comics potentially, like Spider-Man has been a kid all of his life, right? And that's one of your complaints on Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, like it'd be cool to be able to see a new generation of superheroes, but I just don't know if we could ever make the leap.
Also, and this is going to make you sad if you hadn't gotten there yet, they fast forwarded Jonathan.
How old is he now?
Let's say 20 something.
Really? Dang.
And Damien's still like 15 to 16. He got stuck in some time portal thing with Jor-El
Oh,
and came back as a grown up. He's Nightwing size and age.
int- that's weird.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
Again, that's one of those things that's probably going to disappear in the next round of storytelling. Um,
that's fair.
so Timmy, like I know that as we mentioned, most of your writings aren't published and things like that. And you've written some forwards and things, and you've edited my books. If what is it that you would want people to check out of yours? If they were wanting to look into things that Timmy has made.
Look to the horizon.
What's the
At dawn. And no, like um, me. Like I'm in a part of my life where I am pulled in many different directions with whether it's ministry in Honduras, ministry here. And I'm currently in a place where I love doing that and I love being pulled in many directions. I would love to one day really just focus on my writing And so like I don't really want to point people in any directions right now because I want to be able to point people into something that I feel is good, right? And so I mean the first thing I would point them to is your works, because I thoroughly enjoy them, and I think they're very easy, digestible. You can read a chapter, and it's very relevant and very good. And um, but I would love to, you know, I don't know, maybe you'll see in local authors in Robson and County and Cumberland County, you'll see a The City at the Edge of the World by Timothy Martens, and please pick it up if you do.
I
And
will
then
say that on that note, literally none of my books would have made it this far without you. So thank you for your time and this effort because I pay you, but not enough, obviously.
it's
And
past midnight. You're not allowed to make me emotional. So
are you you a Mogwai? What in the world?
I do. I enjoy it, and so it's to the point where if you picked someone else, I'd be sad.
Oh, I don't want to do that. Okay, since you're staying put for like, so there was a portion where, like 8 months ago, Timmy was moving to Honduras, like, and like by this point of this year, and
Right. Yeah.
for life reasons, Timmy's still here. Um, I fully planned to hang it up and not put out another Faith and Fandom because you
Too
were gonna.
bad.
I was like, because you were gonna be gone, and I'm like, I don't want to have to deal with other people.
Yeah.
I was just like, never mind.
Well, we got to do the 10th one. So
Yeah,
once November is done, let me know. Let's get it done. So
yeah. Um, but yeah, what one thing I will say is like, and you while I there's like you don't have a site or works to point people towards. I will say this, that there's whole generations of kids and teenagers and adults now that their lives are shaped and molded because of work that you put into in teenage ministry, summer camp ministry, discipleship ministry. There's whole generations of kids and adults that are more your fruit than just like tangible media,
mhm.
but you definitely left a lasting imprint on our world and the kingdom. So, um,
Yeah, um I just turned 30, and you turned 30 at one point, so you know what it's like. And there's
that's
that
when I left camp.
there's that looming question of just like, oh, what have you done with your life? And I'm thankful that like God has been able to give me. You're saying it's not necessarily super tangible, but I think it's very evidenced. And just be faithful, right, with what He gives you, and He'll do some cool stuff with it. So, um, but how old were you when you published your first one, your first book? It's gonna be my goal. So,
Uh, January of 2014, I would have been uh
that's 11 years ago.
31 or 2, 32. Let's say 32.
Oh, oh, okay.
You got 2 years, essay.
All right, all right. Let's do this. I might need to go quit my job at camp. We'll see. And I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that. But uh, don't tell the board,
I won't.
Mr. Board Member.
Um, so do you care if people follow you on socials or anything?
Sure, I'm not very active at the moment.
What's your Instagram?
It's just at Timmy Martens.
Okay.
That's it.
Martin with an E.
With an E, an S at the end. Yeah. Um, Again, like I've been ingesting more. I don't know, Hector, though. I'm really enjoying this book. Like around the 20,000 mark, you usually hit a brick wall and you slow down significantly as you're writing. But I am loving it. Like I am definitely loving one perspective more than I'm loving the other, and I'm gonna have to go back and write the more difficult parts of that perspective, certainly. But um, I I have good hopes. I have high hopes for this one. High hopes to at least get it good enough, edited enough to at least have my close friends and family read it, and then potentially make decisions from there. So we'll see. We'll see.
Timothy Martens, writing the best books you've ever read.
That's accurate. So.
Yeah, accurate. Well, Timmy, thank you for taking the time to chat with me, to share it with everybody else, and kind of shed light on NaNoWRIMO, but also just kind of creation and expression as a whole. For y'all that are joining this, remember again, you can check this out on Love Thy Nerd on YouTube, on the Glue Network, and all those. You can find it in print or in visual and audio. And thank you, Timmy, for joining with us. And I look forward to seeing everything you're creating in the future as well.
That sounds good. I'll force you to edit it.
Ew. You don't want that, bro.
I don't. I really don't.
You don't want that.